Are we live? Are we live?
Yeah.
I think we're live. Yes, guys. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show live streams. Wowzers. It's old school settings. We haven't even got an account with StreamYard anymore, as you can see by the top over here. No, over here. But just beyond Johnny's violet head, we've got the StreamYard logo, and it's representing out of touch, out of mind. But we are back with a wonderful little dynamic duo in Sava and Johnny. Johnny, welcome back to the channel, my man.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Yeah.
How are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Oh, listen, I had 47 and a half hours of happiness. 47 and a half. It couldn't even give me the 48. And then the Vic news dropped. You know, that's life as a Spurs fan. You know, and that's why
it could have not been more Spursy than that, could it? It's so unbelievably Spursy, that is.
Yeah, but predictable, Sean, but Spursy.
I didn't think that was. Of all the things that I thought would fall apart, Johnny, over the last between now and Thursday, I didn't expect probably the most important player in terms of our lack of depth. And look, this is where the Levy-outers are going to say, "I told you so." And
well, in fairness to them, Sean.
I'm here, Sean.
In fairness to them, Sean, right? In fairness to them, right? This is something I've been going on about since the summer. And, you know, it's one thing to not have a backup left back. And it's another thing not to have a backup left centre back. But the way we play out from the back, with where the keeper plays, we're susceptible to injury. And, you know, having a tree as a backup is not acceptable. And when you look at Alisson's been injured, Ramsdale's been injured, anyone who plays football out the back, because you're coming into contact, foot-to-foot contact with a lot of the attackers in the style of football you play. Liverpool picked up their injury, Man City, Southampton. I'm sure there's others where the goalkeeper, first-choice goalkeeper, has gone down injured. So it's not a surprise in the modern day football. Sorry, Sava, go on. Nice to see you.
Yeah, before we get into it, that was a good segue, but I want to at least welcome the main man as well. Back in, Sava, good to see you, mate. Back on the channel for the first time in, it's been at least 6 months, possibly longer. Good to see you, mate. How you looking well? I like the you went out and bought the neon the glow stick behind you as well. You got a little snow cone.
Yeah,
you're one of the boys has been pissing on your snow cone in the background and it's gone yellow. You know, it's great to see. How you doing, mate? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. I'm good. Look, welcome back. It's good to have you back. We've had a few YouTubers quit in the last 6 months or so it's really important that we get Spurs community getting back together and thriving. I've always said it's really important that we have different opinions all over the place. It's really important. So welcome back. You're looking good. And if I'd known I was going to be live with you before a few hours ago, I would have got my hair cut. I look like a fluffy teddy bear. So
get yourself a flat cap, mate. Get yourself a flat cap. You can hide all sorts. Yeah.
I just can't quite pull it off, mate. I can't pull it off. But listen, great to have you back. Always great to be streaming with Johnny. And let's talk football, shall we? It's all good fun.
Before we do, I'm going to give you straight over to the Oki in a second to let you run with Johnny's take, because it doesn't. You haven't got to be a Levy outer to have noted over the last how many years now? 2 years that we haven't had a backup goalkeeper. It's an insurance policy that you hope you never have to dwell on or draw upon, but when you need it, you need it. And unfortunately, we didn't have it. We don't have it. No disrespect to Fraser. I hope he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, most of us wrong. And I think we all have massive doubts about whether or not we can play Ange ball with Fraser Foster. But you know what? Maybe it will invoke some sort of pivot in the tactic, and maybe embrace some of the more defensive stuff that we need to do anyway. And maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I don't think so, but we'll see how it will be spun by you two. Sarah, stay there. Johnny, stay there. I just want to say hello because I haven't had a chance to really. The chat. What's up, the chat? Look at the first one in there. Drew Zilla, good to see you, mate. Good to see you, buddy. Big up, Mr. Butler. Shout out to you, Johnny, and Big Dave. It's not Dave. It's Sarah. And everyone
it's a Dave impersonator.
Exactly, yeah. The Irish man himself is coming in as a South London.
Irish Sava.
Shoes off, smash a like and sub. Exactly, guys. Drew does it for me. Hit the like button up, guys. There's 166 of you in the house. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification, all that stuff. Get over to Football Heritage. Get over to Johnny's Let's Talk Football in the Instagram And there'll be loads more things coming very soon. Let's see who else is in the house. Big up PH family. Good to see you, my man. Future's bright. Future's lily white. Good to see you, buddy. Long time, my man. John Bostich. Good to see you as well. Who else we got? NAP. Never a pal. Oh no, something else to moan about. Well, we're not moaning. We're gonna be talking. Yeah, there's lots of things we have to chew over. We are going to spend some time talking about the Man City game because it's the first and it's what a wonderful performance. It's just a shame that within, as Jonny was saying, 48 hours, the world has fallen apart as usual. Let's have who else we got? Nick Carey, good to see you. Roy, good to see you, Big Roy. Driving my Hyundai. Good to see you, mate. Designed to win. Mikey, Mojo, Adam, Benny Boy, Kaufman. What's crack-a-lacking, mate? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're well. Hope you're still with your girlfriend, the wonderful girlfriend that I met at Tottenham back in. Loved up.
He is indeed.
Yeah, married.
He don't stop talking about her. He don't stop talking about her. He's in love. He's in love with the boy.
I'm jealous, mate. I'm jealous. Never been in love. I don't know what love is.
Me neither. That's why I got married.
Anyone watching, please send your DMs to me, and I will forward them on to Sean. Any love in the room, I will forward on to Sean.
Exactly. Yeah. The only love I know is my undenying, unreserved, underexposed love of Tottenham Hotspur and Fraser Forster. When he comes in, he's going to be my love.
And Bugsy.
Good to see you, and Bugsy Byrne, of course. Said, Kev, Hennessy, great to see you all. Martin, Driving, Phil P, woo, good to see you, Philly boy. Seb again, Hennessy, Tom Martin, member for months. Aidan Sean, good to see you, mate. Thank you for the support. Member for 10 months, and I haven't been around for 7 of them. Jesus, that's loyalty. That is loyalty. Really appreciate it. Who else we got? Luke, good to see you, buddy. Tottenham, Josh, good to see you, man. How's things? Knives.
Evening all.
Let's get going, guys. Spurs Live. Phil, question for the chat. How much of the blame pie goes to Levy and how much the football people in the club? I mean, the blame pie for the lack of a backup goalkeeper. I don't know when it comes to this one. Well, we're going to figure it out. Let's start with you, Sava. Let's talk about. Actually, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We'll start with the elephant in the room, which is a giant redwood, a giant massive tree. That if we do start the game on Thursday now, if he starts his dive now, he might be able to get down to it just in time for the first minute of the game. Sava, how big of a dent is this in our European hopes or our season's hopes?
Straight face.
Jonny comes straight to me because he knows I'm going to say something, and everyone will start going.
Set the tone, set the trend of the show straight away. Go on. How big
look, first and foremost, someone summed it up to me brilliant earlier and said, "Look, we can't moan. This is what we went into the season with. We can't moan. This was it. We knew this might happen, right? So we made the decision as a club." The question from Phil P, right, in terms of where does the blame lie? Look, none of us know for sure, but between Ange, Lang, Paratit, I don't know whoever's there anymore, Munn, Levy, this should have been addressed. And I think a lot of people talked about this in the summer of we're going to buy loads and loads of young players who we're talking about in 4 or 5 years are going to be world beaters. But what about solving a few really key issues in the squad right now, like a backup left back? Sorry, let me. I hate that term. A left back to compete, a goalkeeper to compete. You know, and this is what we've got. This is what we've got. The big question is always going to be who is going to play. Is it going to be Forster? Is it going to be Whiteman or Austin? I think we probably know the answer, right? I think we've seen the answer from his team selections already this season, and we've got to roll with it. This is what when teams go into a season with their squad set, this is what you're going with. This is what you're going with, and we move, right? There's nothing we can do about it. This isn't one of them dilemmas, Sean, where we can talk about, should Maddison play or Kulu play in the 10? There's no option now. This is what we've got. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Let me stick with you on this one, Sava. I haven't paid, as people will know, for the first, I'd say 7 games. Excuse me. First 7 games of the season, I was distracted with other things. So I only really started paying attention to Tottenham's season halfway through, probably late September. The European games, Fraser Forster, we had a good start to the season, and Fraser Forster, I believe, was in charge of those games in between the sticks. How did he do? Did he impress at all during those periods? I don't know.
I'm just trying to remember. So what we've played 4 European games, right? I know he's played at least 2, Johnny, right? I know he played against Galatasaray.
I'll tell you who you can remember, right? Think back without having a cardiac arrest to the game that I went to, Coventry away.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
That's all.
Yes.
I'm still traumatized. If being traumatized by Fulham in the Carabao Cup wasn't enough, watching a 36-year-old tree falling down was the sight of him in goal in the Coventry game, where not only could he not kick a ball, he couldn't catch a ball, he couldn't punch a ball. It was all over the place, and it was only poor finishing by Coventry which enabled us to even get through that game, because otherwise it could have, it really could have been disastrous for us. They would have been out of sight. Let's put it like that. Oh, there you go.
Really?
Yeah, the Coventry game, he didn't cover himself in glory. I mean, and then the game after that, I remember, Johnny, is Galatasaray, right? And look, I blame him to a degree, but he is what he is. When we're putting we're not putting a player in there and no one's watching his performances and going, oh, I just don't believe it. This is what he is. He's an old goalkeeper now who was good in his day, but in this style he isn't. And against Galatasaray, it was a real mixed bag from him because, let's be honest, he made about 4,000 saves, didn't he? But
yeah, I remember him. I remember thinking to myself, he actually was the man of the match in the Galatasaray game, despite holding.
Well, that tells you all. That tells you all you need to know about how good we were. Look, with Vicario, if you want to do something, you want to find his weak spot, put him under pressure. If you want to put the tree under pressure, you don't push him about. What you do is you drive the ball into the far corner because he can't get there. That's the problem. He's not going to get down to that bottom corner, left or right.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely. We know what he is. We know. Like, listen, when he makes his first dive at the weekend, right? And I'm not saying the ball will go in, but when he makes his first dive and he's slow getting down to it, everyone's going to go, "Oh my god!" But we know, we shouldn't expect anything different, right? We know what he is. So I just wonder whether or not Shawnee should it be Forster? I mean, a Whiteman, Austin and Keeley that bad and not ready that much that Forster is the option?
Or Gunter, right? But this is the thing with Keeley and with Austin and
Gunter, right?
Yeah, Gunter.
Sorry, Gunter.
Well, there's Gunter as well, right? But Gunter's only 19. Keeley's on loan at a team with B. Barnet, is it? Is he at loan at Barnet?
Yeah.
But Keeley was supposed to be something, right? Obviously not yet. And then you got Austin and Whiteman, who they keep getting new contracts, but don't play a minute of football. It's the easiest gig in the world for them. Right?
I'm all over it.
Like 2 hours a day, get down and do a couple of saves on a nice, nicely mown lawn in North London, and then just got off home.
We go to be a DJ.
Grand total of 5 minutes of first team football, and that was in a pre-season tour away in Singapore. Like it was. I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do with that, but on this one, people think I'm a Levy lap dog or whatever they call me, whatever. I'd hold the club fully accountable. I said it at the time when we gave those boys new contracts in January last year. What are we doing? This year, what are we doing? Like, what's the point? What is the point? Is it because they're homegrown? Is it because we can't be bothered? Is it because we don't think that Foster's really good enough? Like, who is responsible for it? I don't care where it lays. Everybody in the club's decision making is guilty of resting on their laurels with this one, because you don't need an insurance policy until you need it. But when you need it, it's the most important thing. And right now, it's the most important thing, and we didn't do it.
We played Russian roulette. Listen, we played Russian roulette and lost. It's as simple as that, right? The powers that be are responsible. When the fans have cried out to be sorted for long enough, yet we're meant to think that a club that's in charge of a multi-billion-pound business can't have the foresight to see what we already knew. I mean, when you've got Whiteman, they're making a club video about Whiteman, the DJ, who's a part-time goalkeeper. I mean, surely it should be a goalkeeper who does a bit of DJing on the quiet. It should be the other way around. Oh, listen, we're a bit short this week. What can we do? Listen, what's his name? Foster's father was a QS judge, yeah?
Okay.
QC,
Right.
big judge, right?
Yeah.
And Austin's dad was a pro basketball player. Who gives a damn, right? Who cares, right? What I'm interested in is a young goalkeeper. Now, the one thing I keep seeing get levelled when I posted about this was, what goalkeeper is going to come to us and be number 2? You said you wanted Kelleher. Why would he come to us and be number 2? Well, clubs with ambition, right? Clubs with ambition should be signing a goalkeeper that's going to compete with Vicario. Okay, that's my opinion. When I look down the road at Arsenal, okay, when they started with Leno in goal, and he got taken out by Malpai with a nasty challenge. I thought that's their season gone. And in came what's his name, the Villa keeper. Fucking forgotten. My brain's just gone now.
Emile Martinez,
yeah. Then came Martinez, who was even better. Then they signed Ramsdale, and Ramsdale's come in. Then they signed Raya. Right now they've got this other top keeper, and I think it's a poor excuse to level that as a defence. No top keeper is going to come and play second fiddle. But I don't see they're playing second. I know you're coming in, Stav. I'll tell you.
No. I was going to back you up. I'm going to back you up.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I think this thing that it's second fiddle. Why is it second fiddle? There's no such thing as second fiddle. There's FA Cup. There's Europa League. There's FA Cup. There's competition.
And for what it's worth, it's not as if Vicario has been flawless. Like, let's be honest, Vicario has also made enough mistakes. If you did have someone that was chomping at the bit, if you did have somebody who was like ready there to take his spot, then it might make Vicario a little bit better and also give you an option if you needed it. Like, there's no.
Can we look at another team, Sean? Like, I listen again. I agree. I completely agree with Jonny. When people in the summer were saying, "Oh, when our keeper's not important, we've got like 19 of them," I was like, "Yeah, but you can have 19, but if only one's any good, then it doesn't really matter." Right. Look at West Ham, right? West Ham have got Areola and Fabianski, right?
Correct.
And went out and got Wesley Fotheringham.
Yeah.
Fodder, I think it did, yeah. Fotheringham on a free from Sheffield United. Decent keeper. Again, I'm not gonna go, oh my God, Fotheringham's amazing. But you'd have him over Fraser Forster. 100%. They've gone out, got a keeper on a free. I'm guessing Fotheringham has not played a minute of football for them all season, but he's gone there. And people lead us to believe that Tottenham Hotspur, we can't go and get you know that, and Nigel's right. Look, Jose Sarr, Sam Johnston.
I like Sam Johnston.
Yeah. So look, but you're right, Sean. This blame for me sits with all of them. This is like Jonny said. We're a $1 billion industry, if you like, and somebody has gone. You know when they're doing their squad planning around the table in the summer, and they've gone goalkeeper. How has no one in the room gone? Excuse me. Might need to get another goalkeeper. No, it's all right. We've got big phrase. Do you know what I mean?
But he's on 75 grand a week, someone said, right?
Let me double. I've got the player wages in front of me. Fraser Forster is on 75 grand a week.
75 grand a week for a giant redwood. What? I mean... Timber! Honestly, like, is there any way we can spin this into something where we can be okay with it? Is there a way where you can go, well, look, Tottenham's undenying need to press at 100 miles an hour, and unfortunately, some of the things that I think most Tottenham fans are all on agreement that it'd be better to take your foot off the gas a little bit, however you want to describe it, like not be gung ho, you know, pull it back a little teeny bit. Maybe the fact that that Ange knows that Fraser Forster can't come out and close that gap. Can't sweep a keep the way that Vicario does. He doesn't have the pace. Maybe that will inevitably lead the pull back, right? But pull it back 10 yards, make it a little bit easier for him. In so doing, you're making it a little bit easier for Dragusin and for Ben Davies or for whoever the four is. Pedro Porro gets a little bit of a respite in that regard. Destiny Udogie, the same thing. You know, maybe some of the takeaways from the City game where you saw players like James Maddison who had to get back and were superb at doing things you don't usually ascribe to James Maddison. which is getting back and helping out the back four when the ball's in the other team's possession. Maybe all of those things now that you wouldn't normally think are going to happen against Fulham, but they might happen against City. Now that maybe they are going to happen against Fulham because the manager's got no choice but to respect the fact that Fraser Foster is a big lump and can't get out and sweep a keep the way he is. And so maybe out of adversity comes opportunity, which is a forced reckoning, a forced revision of the strategy. Pull it back 10 yards, and then we get to see what we want to see anyway with Vicario or with Foster in goal. Still doesn't mean that I'm that confident that when they get the chances through and they're going to put it into the corner, that he's going to get down and save it. But in terms of, will it absorb some of the pressure? Will it help some of the defence out a little bit more? Maybe there's an argument to see something like a pivot in the strategy that wouldn't have happened if Vicario didn't have the injury that he's got.
Do you think, actually, you got a very good point there, because I'm wondering whether or not there's a complacency amongst the defenders. Don't worry, Vic will cover that. Vic will come out and get that. Vic will cover that with a save. Knowing you've got the tree behind you, maybe there'll be a greater sense of urgency that they can't afford to have any complacency or confidence that Vic is going to be there to always clear up, because he's not going to be there. So maybe they'll be more alert in defence. They'll be more tuned in. Knowing that they have to step up to fill the void, because when you look, we got no Bentancur, right, mopping up at the base. Don't know about Vicario. We've got no Micky Van De Ven.
Do we know how long his recovery? Because I was initially told that he'd be back after the international break, but
yeah, I know, but January is after the international break, so we never know with Spurs.
Yeah, they didn't say when after, did they? Just after.
Open-ended.
Yeah. Sean, I think you've got a good point, mate. I don't think it's the end of the world. And what I mean is not Vicario being out, but the change in strategy. Look, you can't play out the back if you've got Fraser Forster. I don't even think Vicario's great at playing out the back. So many passes he passes out, and I go, oh my God, but we get away with it. I think it might mean we go from back to front a little bit quicker. And I don't necessarily mind that. Not all the time, but I don't mind that. I think sometimes, when we do this slow build out from the back and, 95 million passes between Van De Ven and Romero at the back, the other team just go, all right, cool. We'll get all 11 bodies in shape. We'll get everyone behind the ball. We're in shape. I don't think it's a bad thing to mix it up every now and then.
I agree. And I also think that I've said this for ages. I think I started saying this about 9 months ago. It's like, if any club can benefit from unpredictability, it's Tottenham, because the one thing that most teams know is how Tottenham are going to play. And the one time that you turn up and you do something different, every team that has been preparing for the typical version of Tottenham, it was the same under Conte, just a different version of it, right? But the same style every week, the same thing every week. And I always said at the time under Conte, if you are an Arsenal and you've got a game on Thursday or a game on Wednesday, a game on Tuesday, whatever, and then a game on Saturday, and you've only got X amount of hours that you can put towards the big game on the weekend against Tottenham, if you know how they're going to play, then you can rinse, repeat the same practices, assuming, correctly so, that Tottenham are going to be predictable. But the one time that Tottenham are not predictable, the one time we change it up, is the time that all of the other teams' preparation goes out of the window and there's an opportunity. And if it works just once in that first instance, then every other team following won't know whether to prepare for the traditional typical Tottenham or the new Tottenham that have shown a different version of themselves. And so in this version...
But will he do it, Sean? Huh? We're saying he'll do it. Will he do it? Or do you think we'll just continue to play out the back and have a lot of not heartwarming, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to say, heart-scaring moments. Do you know what I mean? Will he do it? I don't know.
He's got concrete. Listen, the first is he's got concrete in his boots. I mean, I was watching him at commentary in that first 45 minutes, and he went to pass it out to the defender, left back, I can't remember, or right back, I think it was Archie Gray. And he was over-hitting every ball, because the thing is, I'd like to ask you here, do you think a 36, 37-year-old can play 3 games a week in goal?
Well, if you're going to pick any position, If you're going to pick any position where age shouldn't be a tiring stamina-based factor, you'd hope it would be.
Well, it's diving about. Hang on a minute. When was the last time you dived on the ground and tried to get up at 37, right?
I can't even do my shoelaces up, Johnny. I can't even do my shoelaces up.
About 2.5 hours ago, I was trying to play football with Bugsy, and she jinked to the left, and I slipped in the mud and landed.
And how long did it take you to get up? Listen, all I know is that in that penalty shootout against Fulham, by the time he got up, right, they were on the halfway line, right? Goal. Okay, so I'm
ready to go again.
You know, Willie, I'm just saying, I know it's the least taxing you would think as a player, but when you've not been playing, I think his first season, I think he played like 16, 17 games when Lloris was injured. But that was...
Is that when Lloris popped his elbow?
Yeah, no, that was... Don't forget, that was playing Conte ball, where it was much more suitable to his type of football.
Yeah.
It didn't have the high line. So don't forget he's going to be... I don't think Ange will change his system that much, which will mean that we're going to have a 37-year-old running out to try and, get on top of Ralph Jimenez or Robinson or whoever it may be come the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see.
Can't we just leave him out there, Johnny? Like, we're playing at home on Thursday night and then at home on Sunday. We'll just leave him on the pitch.
Yeah.
We'll put a tent out there, leave him on the pitch and just say, look, don't get up, save your energy, and just get him up for the start of the game.
We need Glenn Hoddle, right? Glenn Hoddle had 3 stints in goal and didn't lose again, right?
Get Kane back. Once. He went in goal. He? Get Kane back. He went in goal, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if we've got any sort of anyone who's tall that fancies their chances. Look, I'd like to say I was at the QPR game pre-season game, and I was looking back on the goals right on the front line, and it looked like QPR, I can't remember his name, really good little player, jinking run, and he hit a shot that I thought was destined for the top right-hand corner. And Austin made an absolute superb save. And he made another
Elias
save.
Chair. Are you thinking of Elias Chair?
Yeah. And I turned around and I said, you know what? Actually, he's had a really good game. Maybe he's going to be number 2. He's got a 5-year contract. And I was thinking, obviously he's showing progression. And that was the last...
Let's press pause on the Fraser Foster bashing a little bit for a second. Because I hope that it's going to work for him. But let's focus that for a second. The 5-year contract. What is that? It's one thing to go, we haven't had time to figure out just yet, our long-term replacement plans. But like giving Austin and Whiteman 5-year deals at the age of 26, what is that about? Like, it doesn't make any sense mathematically, financially, strategically. I mean, I don't even know, like, is it just a homegrown thing? Was it a way of like just making the numbers work from a homegrown thing so that if you need them, you can put them into the European squad? What was the logic? But 5 years.
I had to check they weren't
5 years.
To be honest with you, I had to check the DNA after a DNA test to see whether they were related to Daniel or anyone on the ball. I know the liaison is Levy's brother-in-law, but I mean, I couldn't find any trace of a relationship between Daniel Levy and either goalkeeper, which begs the question, a guy who's tight and to the point of not wasting any money gives, like you say, Sean, 2 5-year deals to keep...
5 years? Only one of them has. Only one of them's got a 5-year deal. Austin has. Whiteman's up at the end of the season.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
He's on his way out. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll just replace him with Keeley and
Can
I just say, I'm not doing the Forster bashing. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I know exactly what I'm going to expect from Forster, right? Yeah. What we can't do, though, is this can't be the excuse now if we lose a game. Like, it can't just be, Vicario was out, because we've lost games, a lot of games this year with Vicario. So for me, look, I don't think it's as crazy. I don't think it's as disastrous as everyone says. I do think, though, more than anything, it's highlighted the need to go and get someone. And I'm just going to chuck out a crazy little scenario to you guys. Anyone think we might go and get Hugo Lloris on a couple of months' loan?
I'm not being funny. He's got
is that a contract, is he? Is he a free
the MLS season's, isn't it, in its break between now and February?
After the watch business,
I'm just spitballing, mate. It's Spurs, right? That is, it's something we would do, isn't it?
Correct.
Hi, Hugo. You remember us?
I'm sorry. Listen, that might have been the case until if it wasn't for the fact that Hugo Lloris came out a week ago and went, the reason why we lost that Champions League final, it was Daniel Levy's fault, buying us all a watch. Yeah. We bought a watch.
Hugo, please come back. We've got you a new watch this time with something else inscribed on the back. You want to
short-term champion.
Listen, he bought a restaurant. He bought a restaurant in the south of France, and unfortunately, he couldn't even hold on to the tray and dropped hold on the ship there. So I don't think he can hold on to a ball. No, listen.
You can hold on to a bottle of red wine fairly well, though, can't he?
I think the only one out there. Look, I know who I wanted. Like Liverpool have got Marashvili coming from Valencia.
Yeah, good keeper.
Get him on loan, for God's sake. So, Liverpool you can't have two good keepers. They're going to have three. Let's get him in on loan. Let's get him on loan for the first 6 months with an option to buy in the summer. That's what I'd be doing.
Who would you be buying?
Kelleher.
Oh, if Kelleher was available, I wouldn't mind if he was first choice going forward.
Well,
I think Kelleher's class.
I was going to say I wouldn't want him as my backup. I think Kelleher is so underrated. It's unreal. I never see him put a foot wrong in a Liverpool shirt ever. He's a brilliant shot stopper. He commands his box. He catches everything. He looks decent with his feet.
Brave.
I'd take him all day. Do you know what? If Jonny, what you said at the beginning, if we were a top club that really wanted to go places, go and get him and go fight. Go on, you two, in the summer, fight it out for the number one slot.
Correct.
Love that.
Correct. Exactly what they did with Ramsdale and Raya. And the thing is, I've got to be honest with you, in our group, I was saying that he was my number one keeper. When they were talking about Raya, I said I wanted Kelleher, right? Because you could get Kelleher cheap, and I'd see how well he'd play. Listen, look, and also he's over two and a half years younger than Big Vic, and I think competition is healthy. It's a healthy
How much would you pay for Kelleher right now? What's he worth?
30 mil. I'd pay him 25, 30 mil, easy. And let me tell you something, honestly and truthfully, if they get a Marashvili who's 23.
Is that how old is he? He's only 23, is he?
23, yeah. Kelleher.
Have you seen him play, Jonny?
Yeah,
have you seen Mamardashvili play?
Yeah.
Paul.
We were linked. Listen, we were linked with him, but we're linked to everyone, but we don't buy it.
That is brilliant succession planning from Liverpool,
Correct.
Isn't it? That is what you do, right?
That's what Liverpool do so well. That's what makes them a club that, despite not spending the same amounts of money as clubs around them, the reason why they are always perennial competition at the very top is because they always have one eye on the now, and they buy for now, but they also never take their eye off the future. Spurs seem to always have too much of their focus on the future, never enough on the now, and then other clubs maybe have too much on the now, not enough on the future. That's why they pop in and pop out of relevance. But Liverpool are always factoring in where we're going next, who's coming up for their, what's the process of replacing, and Alisson's getting on, and they need someone to come in. But I don't know why they don't look at Kelleher and think that he's good enough. I don't know what is it that they don't see in Kelleher that is.
I don't know, but the best exponents of succession in the Premier League are Brighton. Brighton do not sell anyone. Nobody do they.
They sold one player. They sold the Goalkeeper for £600,000.
They don't sell anyone unless they have a succession plan.
Yeah,
The manager, that includes management, directors of football, and we have not historically. We're trying to do that now by buying young players and what have you, but historically we haven't done that. And I'm sorry, it's a massive oversight. I'm not going to make excuses for the club. The club have seriously messed up by not having backup. The fact that this fan base can clearly see that this is an accident waiting to happen. If you're playing classic football, old school football, then yes, it still could be a problem, but not so much. But when you're playing out the back, when you've got goalkeepers coming into contact with strikers on a regular basis, with that high line, you're going to ask for trouble. And we should have, without any doubt, dealt with this issue. And now, in January, we are going to be held to ransom, because depending on how quickly that injury is going to come and how well Fraser Foster performs, we're going to need to do something about it.
It doesn't matter how well he
alone, won't
they? Even if Foster is excellent, it's still not
what I'm saying, Kelleher. If Alisson comes back and Manashvili is going to come from Valencia, then maybe they can do a deal with Liverpool.
But I mean, there's a few goalkeepers that are available immediately. Like a lot of people in the chat have mentioned that Keylor Navas is he's without a club again. A hugely experienced goalkeeper that's won Champions Leagues and leagues with Real Madrid. For me, that's where the smart business is. For me. And then in January, I'd like to think that between no matter what happens with Forster, he could come in and be brilliant. But between now and the summer, on the shopping list, on the scouting list, has got to be right. Scouts, recruitment team, we need a list. We need a list of goalkeepers from around the world. We need some.
Is that going to dismantle any? Let's give Tottenham enough credit that they probably have got 4 or 5 people there, Langer and McKenzie and Scott Mann and whoever else that's sitting there trying to figure out what their role is. What they're doing, what is their job title, what's their responsibilities? Are they sitting there now going, Daniel, we're going to need to solve for Foster, but on top of that, let's not forget we also still need that left-sided centre-back, because Ben Davies, as much as he was sensational, and look, I do want to spend 20 minutes looking a little bit in the rearview mirror at the Manchester City game to see how you guys feel about that and what the takeaways from it are, but let's also coincide it with, what does it look like? Imagine the Fraser Foster thing or the Vicario thing hadn't happened. How confident were you on the back of what happened on Saturday, looking towards the Man United quarter-final, looking towards the Europa League on Thursday, looking towards the rest of the season? How much of a spanner in the works is the Vicario injury? How much, not just in our short-term, access to aspirations and hope around what we're going to do, but also, does it put a spanner in the works with regards to our transfer policy? If we now have to find 30 million for Kelleher, does that mean that we're not going to get cover for Udogie that we may have had already identified for January? What about the left-sided centre-back? What about that monster number 6? I still maintain, if you look at Manchester City, the team that has 11 world-class players on the pitch at any particular point in time, doesn't matter who you pick, whatever team, they've got world-class everywhere, yet the absence of Rodri is so significant and meaningful that you can't argue, in my opinion, when you look at Tottenham and you see a team that has a similar philosophy, not the same, different style. Tottenham create their movement via players' movement, and Pep's system is more ball movement as the creator of space. But ultimately, the philosophy isn't dissimilar. But you can see from that Manchester City, the absence of Rodri has always been a giant problem for them. And Tottenham have never filled the monster 6 gap that I've been talking about for 2 years. I know you guys have as well. So, if there was acknowledgement that's missing, does that now get put to the back burner because we have to spend 30 million on a Keller or whoever?
Well, it shouldn't. Listen, it shouldn't do, because we got players that we will sell off or get off the wage bill. Just to say that Keylor Navas is going to be 38 next month, and he hasn't got a club. Now, why would a 38-year-old with that much experience not have a club? Maybe it's because he's 38 years of age. Well, yeah, but he's without a club. Surely, if he
I've heard that he's DJing part-time, Johnny.
Yeah.
He's DJing.
Yeah, he's on. Yeah, he's going for the Ibiza circuit this summer. He's not really interested in this. But listen, you're right. But I think for me, it was a crime not to get a backup left back and a backup left centre back, because we knew this was going to happen. Not get a goalkeeper, as I say again, it is unforgivable in my mind, unless you have a plan of succession, and we don't. Yes, we have Gunter, because Gunter is an unbelievable goalkeeper. I've seen him a few times play.
Is he ready though? Is he ready to step up?
No, I think at 19 it's very difficult in a man's game as a goalkeeper to assert
you got to
yourself.
command the box. You got to be strong.
That's what I'm saying. To assert yourself as much as you can in the under 21s and the under 18s. I was at Spurs Arsenal last season, at Boreham Wood.
I was there with you. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And do you remember how good he was that game?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, it was save after save after save. It was like embarrassing how many saves he made.
Yeah.
You know, and Arsenal fans there, they were asking, who's this kid? But it's different. It's men's football. I don't think he's ready yet.
Can I just off the I completely agree with everything you said, Johnny. Where I disagree slightly, Sean, and I agree with you and disagree with you at the same time. Me and you have had this conversation about the need for a number 6 for forever. I feel like it's been.
You don't agree with it, no?
For a long time. I don't think it's that the club haven't gone and got one. I think it's that I don't know if Ange wants one.
No, I agree. He doesn't. He hasn't. He's made it abundantly clear, Sam.
2-8,
right?
He thinks that all midfielders are the same. He says that. Like,
I
he
agree.
says the same thing about defenders. That it'll this left versus right defender. No. If you're good enough, you're good enough. I'm like, okay, you know football better than I do. What do I know? I'm just a guy with a microphone and a camera and an opinion. But I don't know. Like every other club in world football seems to recognise that there is a difference between a defensive midfielder and a midfielder and a box to box and a creative player. He seems to think that versatility is the be all and end all, and I don't agree with him. Doesn't mean that I don't love him or like him or appreciate his opinion. I just think that there is a need for a 6. If you were to ask. We saw Gundogan is not a 6. You put him in alongside.
Yeah, he's not.
It just didn't work, right?
Yeah, look, I think that for me, look, I'd love to see a 6. I'm a big look. Again, I think it all depends on when we talk about number 6s. A lot of people think of the traditional. Let's just kick everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm a defensive midfielder that just goes running into people and kicks. I think that 6 now has morphed into the likes of what Rodri and Zubimendi do, to use 2 of the best at it in the world. For me, I always said in the summer, a player I would have really liked, said it over and over again, would have been Locatelli from Juventus. A player that naturally sits in front of that back 4, but as it almost like a Sheringham in defensive midfield.
Intelligent.
Not quick, but you watch wherever. I watched Juventus at the weekend. Obviously, this weekend, whenever I watched Juventus whenever I watch them, Locatelli, it doesn't matter who's got the ball, he manages to find a 5-yard, 10-yard space in the pitch to receive it. And when he gets it, he's already scanned the field. He knows what his options are, right, left, and in front of him.
Peripheral vision.
Absolutely. And he decides, Johnny, do I put my foot on it and slow the game down, give him a breather? Do I speed it up? Look, Michael Carrick, that type of role.
Yeah.
But what he's also got is sensational passing, whether that be the 5-yard pass or the 70-yard pass. Listen, choose your poison. I'm not going to die on a hill for Locatelli, but that type of footballer, for me, is definitely something that this team needs for me. I think we try and squeeze it out of Bentancur. I like Bentancur. I don't think he is that, and I don't think he's consistent enough, and he's getting the injuries and now all these problems. But for me, I think we need a Locatelli. I think we need somebody that. Do you know what? Sorry, just quickly. The way I explained it, Sean, last week, just really, really quickly. Sorry, is I think we've got some good midfielders, right? Good. I don't think we've got that standout midfielder that you say every game that bloke has to start over everyone else, and he dictates the game.
100%.
You know, we have not got that. And I think all the top teams that win things all around the world, they have that. And that's what I think we need to look at for the next level.
But Bentancur, for me, Bentancur is a brilliant holding midfielder with the passing, with the on-the-ball stuff. Where I think he comes up short is his ability to read the game off the ball. When we lose the ball in transition, and part of the problem with the model, as far as I interpret it, is all this abdication of, you know, this is the framework, this is the mindset, this is the philosophy, whatever word you want to ascribe to the kind of the concept of Ange Ball, whatever. That it's a lot of it is hand over to the players. You figure it out, right? You move. You if you feel like it's upon you to think outside the box. Romero takes it on himself to walk up to become a striker in games. All that stuff, right? There needs to be this like continuity of bandwidth and wavelength where people are like going, "Oh, you're doing that. Okay, then I'm going to do this." And when it works, it's phenomenal. Like the 4 goals we scored against City were just unplayable and unbelievable on the eye. But everything was on, everything was dialed in, and it was beautiful to watch. When that doesn't happen, when you're duking to the right and you expect the other player to be on your wavelength and he gets it wrong and you play it this way and he's gone that way and you lose the ball in transition, which happens to a frequency that is noticeable at times, then you lose the ball on transition. In that moment, you need that, for me, that 6 to be able to read the game and know what the other team are going to do to be able to gobble up the space that's created. And if you don't do that, then you put so much responsibility on Porro and Udogie to get back. You need Van De Ven's pace. Romero, if he's been caught up 50 yards further up than he should be, then someone else has got... All that stuff is unnecessary and can be mitigated if you have a 6 who... Whilst, yes, you want him to be a Zubimendi on the ball, a Bentancur, a Bissouma, whatever, but you just need someone who's better at reading the game in the transition and filling the spaces off the ball. And we don't have it. To your point, Saba, I agree with you. We need someone who's just a number one on the team sheet in that role. I thought Manuel Ugarte would have been the perfect guy. He's gone to United. Has he flashed? No, he hasn't really done anything. But then everyone at United looks awful this season. You know, there's a lot of players that exist in the Premier League that have moved in and you kind of think, well, they would have been great. And then you see them in other teams and it hasn't really clicked yet. But that doesn't mean that they're not the right fit for the right team. And I just think that Tottenham are lacking in that. And I don't think we have it in Bissouma. I don't think we have it in Bentancur. Pape Sarr is unique in his skill set. There's nobody that covers as much blades as grass as he does. But can you rely on him to be the 6? Different type of player. He has so much in his locker, but not what you need from that role.
For me, though, I think with Bentancur, for me, when I first saw him, when he first came to the club, although everyone was raving about Kulu in those first 6 months, for me, there was something about Bentancur. He was just purring with his football. What was missing for me was I said, you know, he needs to add goals to the system, right? And then he came out that next season prior to the World Cup, and I did a poll just before they went to the World Cup, who is Tottenham's best player? And he won hands down. I had over 1,000 people in the poll, and he was absolutely on fire. He was scoring goals, he was picking up the ball, he moves the ball quickly, he was reading everything. Since the injury, he has not been the same player. But, and here's the but, I started to see those signs of the old Bentancur the last 3, 4, 5 games, where he's starting to come into his own, back to the old Bentancur we know before this happened, right? Which isn't good, you know, which isn't great. You know,
I disagree slightly, Johnny. I feel that there's games where we see that from Bentancur. I also think there's games where he's quite anonymous as well, and whether that's the injury or whatever. I like Bentancur, I do,
yeah.
But the way I described it, Johnny, was I think we've got a group of midfielders that if we're looking for 4th, 5th, 6th, I think we can do it with those midfielders. I think it depends. If you then want to start going beyond that and talking about the next level and getting up with the, you know, where Arsenal were last season, Liverpool, City. I think if you want to do that on a regular basis, for me, I think we need better than the midfielders we've got.
Who's the first name to be chopped then, Sav? You have to make space.
I'm not saying any of them are terrible.
He's got nasty as well, Bentancur. He's got that edge, which you...
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Would you rather see Bissouma leave first, Bentancur, Sarr? Who would, one of the youngsters? Who would you...
Well, I suppose it all depends, Sean, doesn't it? Like, first and foremost, I suppose it all depends on, you know, look, you know, Bentancur. Let's look at Bentancur. You know, not only is he having a lot of injuries, you know, now we're starting to see a few off-field things as well with him, and it's stop, start. I don't know. Does he can we get him into the team and have 6 months interrupted of him playing well? That, you know, my favourite word, Sean, is consistency. Can we get that from him? Bissouma again. One game he's brilliant. The next game everyone's talking about he's rubbish. Sarr,
he's the guy who's got to go for me. Bissouma, I just think he's not.
Yeah,
again,
for me,
Bergvall and Gray, do they both stay at Spurs for the foreseeable? Does one of them go on loan for a year somewhere to get 90 minutes with? I don't know, Sean, but I just want one top midfielder added to this selection. One top one where you go, that's my guy. Which 2 are going to play with him? You know, which one is going to play with him and have Maddison as your playmaker? That's the question for me.
Bissouma, for me, has been the biggest disappointment as a signing. I had for the price, I was like, Jesus, there's value there. He's a class player, and then if I'm honest, he just hasn't done it for me consistently. Yeah, hit and miss.
Yeah, but
as far as
because we know he doesn't want a 6. All of this we can talk about. If he doesn't want the 6, mate, and we want just 2 number 8s, I think that's great. But I think when you start playing in the Champions League and when you start playing the world's best week in, week out, I think you're gonna need that guy that leads you to glory.
2 number 8s, 2 number 8s, 2 number 10s, and also 2 number 7s and or striker against Ipswich. I said this on one of the first videos back, Johnny. I'll come to you just now. Last thing I'll say is, like, I just think that if you're chasing a game where you've already over-egged the pudding with attacking players, and you had Bentancur was the only kind of measured midfielder, quote unquote, who to me is an 8 anyway. And then when Bissouma goes off injured, you bring on Timo Werner, and you've already got Maddison and Kulu and Johnson, and it was either Solanke or Richalison on the pitch. I'm like, what are we doing here? We're losing a game where you've already got too many attacking players on the pitch, and then your answer to losing Sarr is to bring on another winger, another forward. I was like, at the end of the day, it's a glutton for punishment. It's like, the answer to more offense is more offense. You need balance to your team, and it reminded me of Pochettino when we lost 7-2, was it, to Bayern Munich in the last days of the Pochettino era, when we ended that game with 9 forwards on the pitch. And I was like, what are we doing here? Like, are you asking for the sack, or have you just completely forgotten that there's a balance? There's another team that have got the ball at times, and they're going to be trying to score goals against you. And I just think that sometimes you have to recognize that the answer to an offense that isn't working is not to put on more offensive players. And I just think you need some sort of substance, some stability in the midfield, and we don't have it. And his lack of ability to believe in a 6, for me, is a problem.
I got to be honest with you. It's interesting you say that because I always talk about balance, yin with yang. That's why I wanted on Slot. Why did I want Slot? Because I think he had a mix of the gegenpress with pragmatism. He has that balance, and I thought that's what Spurs needed. Spurs didn't need kamikaze attacking, nor did it need, the Conte boring defensive mechanism, right? The sent us all into coma. And I thought Slot was the perfect balance between a guy who wants to attack and play exciting football, but at the same time has his first eye on not conceding goals. Which, listen, I'm sure that Ange also doesn't want to concede goals, but the way he sets up his teams is exactly what you're talking about now. Is that balance? It's always being mindful of the balance and how the team sets up.
Yeah.
Even when it wasn't going so well for them against Southampton on the weekend, he kept that balance. When he was taking attackers off, he was replacing with attackers. When they were chasing out of the goal, he didn't panic. And I think that's important. Listen, going back to Bentancur, I think he's definitely a victim of the serious injury he had, to come back from that. But I remember, in the World Cup in that group stage, he had the best stats of any midfielder in the World Cup. And I just think that, it's rather unfortunate that he's come back and this has happened, but it is what it is. And we, like Vicario, we have to deal with it. Personally, I'd like to see someone sat at the base of that defence, right, of that midfield, as a 6, right, playing that traditional role, but who offers something else other than just the basic traditional 6. I want someone who can pass the ball, who can be brutal in the tackle, and have the peripheral vision to see what's going on around him. And I think, listen, I've got pulled up on this. I said he reminds me of. I didn't say he is, but
I know.
So I said that Pape Sarr reminds me of Patrick Vieira with the way he runs, with the lanky legs and the amount of ground he covers. I'm not saying
he reminds me of Kaka. It reminds me of Kaka back in the day. The ability to drive from the base and just pick the ball up.
I really like him. I really like him. But I think listen, like we were saying about the goalkeeper, like we're saying about every position, top teams have top players. competing for every single position. And when everyone's fit for Man City, and you look on that bench, when they got their Oscar Bobs and they got their Fodens and their Grealishes and the Rodris and the Silvers and the Gundawans and everybody else, and you look on there and they ain't sitting there going, we got too many good midfielders. We got too many good defenders. No, that's what top teams do. That's what top teams have. And, this thing where we couldn't possibly go out and buy another top midfielder. We've already got midfielders. And we couldn't possibly go out and buy a winger that can actually go past the player when you're playing a low block, right?
That's a good segue there, Johnny. I want to move the conversation forward away from the midfielders.
We've got more wingers than Nando's.
On that one, guys, there's 500 people. There was 500 people in the house, give or take.
Anyone
if you haven't
know?
already, please smash the like button. Really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe if you're new around these parts, or if you did once was a subscriber and you left because you thought I was gonzo. Well, I'm back, so make sure you smash the subscribe. Get over to the Football Heritage TV as well, link in the title. Get over to see him, and also get over to Let's Talk Tottenham 1882 on the Instagram. And Johnny and I are going to be figuring out a way to start a channel together, or to make a regular thing outside of Devil's Advocate, which also, by the way, is back tomorrow lunchtime. The Devil's Advocate, Johnny, myself and Dave are back, so everyone that's been looking forward to that and asking me, we're back tomorrow lunchtime. But get over to Savas, get over to Johnny on Insta and then to X, and smash that like button, guys. I want to say quickly, just very, very quickly, I haven't had a chance to call them out. Tom Martin for the member for 10 max, thank you for your support. Evening, Sean, good to see you, mate. Johnny and Sav as well, great to see you. Phil P, woo, says the KDL and Phil Army, sending love to Sean and the boys. What's the KDL? The Kane Defence League?
It's the Kulu Defence League.
The Kulu Defence League. Oh, well,
I know one of these sayings that just flows around. Yeah.
I love it. I want to bring in the Kulu. I
don't know what they're defending him from, but yeah, he's being defended.
Well, look, I mean, listen, there was a lot of don't understand Kulu, don't think he's worth it, would sack him and sell him in a second. Last season, a lot of that was going around.
Yeah.
This year, I think he's proven a lot of the doubters wrong. Before we get into that as a conversation, El Dante also member for 6 months. Thank you, mate, for the. I mean, you've been a member the entire time I've been absent, so I'm so sorry, my man. Feel free to cancel that membership for the next 6 months until I've earned your respect and your value back, and then you can dial it back in, and I'll bring up your chats anyway, my man. Thank you, El Dante, and also Kulu's elusive right foot, a new member. Thank you very much for your support. Kulu's, mate, you're the guy who always brings up the new names all the time, wasn't it? I remember you from back in the day, Kulu, elusive right foot. Thank you very much, man. Good to see you. Thank you for your support. Lads, let's talk about Kulu. Dejan Kulusevski. Listen, Sav, I'm going to start with you, mate, because I do recall you being one of his critics last year. Rightly so. He was an off guy, and we didn't know what he was doing on the right wing. I was with you on that. Like, he didn't feel like a right winger. He didn't have the kind of what you look for in a traditional right winger, the kind of, Vinny Jr. style, quick acceleration, tricky feet, get it to the byline, look up, whip it in, all of the things that you traditionally want. He himself said, I'm better in the 10. Yep. Maddison dropped the ball a little bit, didn't really have much competition, rested on his laurels. Kulu gets repositioned in that wonderful breakout season. Would you call it a breakout season for Kulusevski this year? But he's been fucking phenomenal, hasn't he, this year? Fantastic. And at 23 years old, you can't really sell him now, and he probably will come with a lot of bidders for him in January and the summer, right? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I was I've been very critical of Kulu because I think for the last 2.5 years, I think he's been really inconsistent. The ability's there. There's no doubt in it that you can see that he's got a lot of talent as a footballer, but it just wasn't quite. One game you'd go, God, yeah, Kulu looked good, and then for 2 or 3 games it'd be like, I need this guy to do more. Look, he's been hands down our best player this year in terms of on the eye and performances. And I think the conundrum, is going to be how do you get him and Maddison into the team? Because for me, they've both got to play. You've got to find a way. And the way he played them on Saturday for me is exactly how you do that. By all intents purposes, the Sky Sports team sheet, all the apps will tell you that Kulu was right wing. But that's a starting position, right?
Yeah.
So I thought what he got a brilliant mix of, he managed to blend it brilliantly on Saturday was, when do I try and run at my fullback? When do I try and bully Vardio? When do I try and do that? Versus when do I drop into those inside pockets and come in and link up with Maddison and Solanke? For me, I think that's how I would do it. I wouldn't have Johnson in my 11. I would have Kulu there, and then I would have James Maddison in the 10. But again, I've got to caveat this, Sean. That works when we don't play a ridiculously high line, when we don't have Porro and Udogie playing in central midfield as inverted fullbacks that are actually in Maddison and Kulu's area. Yeah. And I think that's why I said, when I think a lot of people got it wrong what I said. Like, Jonny, we did a show on Sunday night, and I said, I thought that Ange massively changed it up Saturday. Massively. And I thought that's the best we've looked. When we dropped the traditional, I hate that, Ange ball, inverted, high flying, everyone, I think that will work in patches. What we saw Saturday for me was more of a, hey, this suits everyone on the pitch, Sean. That suited everyone on the pitch. It suited the two centre-backs that were there that didn't have to do a high line. It suited, we actually had a back four that were in line with each other. It wasn't a back two with two players going ho. The two midfielders sitting in front of the back four, I thought were absolutely brilliant. They went about their job quietly, but did their job. And Maddison, again, it allowed Maddison to stop playing in this number 8, dropping deep, let me be tackling the whole time. And people going at him going, oh, he's too weak, he doesn't tackle. It's like, he's a number 10. It allowed him to go in the number 10, play off of Solanke, and actually ghost into the box and grab himself goals. For me, that's the blueprint Saturday. Not all of this two at the back, high line, inverted full. That, but people keep getting upset when I say that because they think I'm knocking. And I'm not knocking him. I like that he adapted to that. Yeah. The question I've got is, did he adapt to that because it was City? Or is he going to adapt to that more in the future? So, look, we won't know. We won't know until. Great. I'm not even sure if we'll know against Roma, right? But we'll know against Fulham. Johnny, Roma I don't count. Jonny, on Kudu, mate. Like, anyone that had opinions last season, it's okay for them to. Their opinions last season were valid, and it's okay for them to sit there and acknowledge that the guy has adapted. To me, Kulu has something unique about him that no one else in most of the big teams have got in a winger, where he's got that unbelievable strength, unbelievable engine, the gallop on him. He's like a racehorse that's charging into space, but he also has delicate feet. And he also, if you see that, I'm sure you've seen the clip, the 60-second short of him against City when he tears inside and out of
he's unbelievable.
Goal for Pedro Porro's third goal. That, if you look at the amount of times in that little 5-second spiel where he looks up to see what's going on around him 4 or 5 times, whilst also creating delicate little back heels and flicks 1-2s with Sonny. He looks up the entire time. Slightly different to Timo Werner, who did what he did in the, where he galloped through, galloped past. I don't think he looked up and put the ball across for the fourth goal. But the ability to look up whilst doing what he does at pace with his strength, I don't think there's another player in the Premier League that can do that. And it's such a rare, unique quality. And it's someone so young. If it's a flash in the pan, well, I hope it isn't. But if it's the start and a genesis of a new confidence in him that can develop, he's got everything in his locker to be a world class. And I don't use that phrase lightly. He has everything that not many people do. Jonny, what do you think about that?
For me, he's a mental monster. Look, I've got to tell you, right? When Ange signed, the first thing I said, the first thing he's got to do is bring Kulu into the middle. And I went on and on and on and on about it. And I really don't feel that he grabbed that opportunity with both hands. Every time he was given the opportunity, he fluffed his lines. And I was getting a bit despondent with him because I thought, I've really misread this guy. I thought this is his position. He's born to play it. He believes that's his position, and he failed. But this is where the mental monster comes in. He looked at himself and said, you know what? I didn't perform. something happened in that summer, and where everyone else was sunning themselves and finding birds or whatever they do in the summer, he was working on his game.
I think there was a Euros going on.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's true.
Yeah,
very true.
But listen, he worked on his game, and he worked on it big time. And you know, I always say this: like Harry Kane, the Harry Kane that was playing when Christian Eriksen was at the club was not the same Harry Kane as when Christian Eriksen left, because there became a void and there was no creative midfielder. So what did Harry Kane do? Harry Kane worked on his ability to drop deep and try to become the creative player as well as the guy who puts the ball in the back of the net. And I think this is what separates top world-class players from average players. It's the hunger to keep driving forward, look at yourself in the mirror and ask, did I give the best I have? Can I do better than this? I mean, you know, how infuriating was it when you looked at Kulu and you saw him coming down on that right-hand side and you knew straight away he's going to check back and he's going to go and try and get onto that other foot. It was infuriating. And I said, work on your weak foot. Work on your weak foot. Now I look at this player, he's unrecognisable this season from the player he was. And when you listen to him, he's an educated guy, right? What he says is perfect sense. And for me, he has the vocabulary of a leader, more so than some of the people I hear speak. And, you know, I listen to him and it fills me with confidence. You know, he's like fills me with confidence, mental muscle, because I think he is. I think it's belief. If you believe in yourself and you believe you can change it, because look what happens when you don't believe. Timo Werner, right? When you don't believe, he has the tools. He's the third fastest.
Did he look up? Did he look up, Johnny? No. I said in my post-match thing, I was like, look, fair play to Timo. I've always, but
he was looking at his shoes. Come on,
right? He had me a boost gump, but I always loved the guy. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he looked up and that it was.
He didn't. He looked at his shoes.
Switched at 100 miles an hour and he whipped the ball in with his feet to the floor. And I got pelters in my comments going, he did look up. He did look up. You hated on Timo. Stop hating on Timo. I was like, I love Timo, but he didn't fucking look up. He didn't look up. So it's luck, right?
But we all know confidence breeds confidence, right? It's just the same as the opposite works. And that's what he's been suffering from, you know. And, you know, a Timo with confidence is a different player. But, you know, look, I'm just saying that, you know, Kulu now is someone who's leading by example. And, you know, if other players look at him, you know, he says, I want to win in training. I want to be the one who's going the furthest, the longest, the hardest. If everyone in that squad had the same mental attitude as he did, we wouldn't have the situations that came about against Crystal Palace and somewhat against Ipswich and Brighton. That's my belief.
Can I add on to that? I mean, look, for me, I think it's great to see somebody who's worked on not only their game, but their mindset. I think that's something that you applaud, because a lot of footballers, it's all too easy for them. And again, fans, we've got a lot of part to play. I don't mean Spurs. I mean football fans. We praise everyone so quickly. And again, this is why when people are talking to me about Kulu now, I'm not going to put him on the pedestal everyone else is, because what I want to see him do this for a year. I want to see that this continues. And I don't think that's too harsh. That's how top players are judged, right? Has he got the ability to be world class? I mean, pick your poison on what people think is world class. For me, you got to keep doing it. Yeah. The last 2.5 years has been...
I saw your look on your face when I said sorry. When I said like I think that he's got everything about him because of his unique caliber. I think he could become world class. And I see Johnny going. I see you going.
No, he could be. Listen, he could be. And look, there are many players who could be. For me, what I like to see in football, as you know me, Sean, I don't see 10 good games from a player. And you know what, the rest of the world, we see a player have 5-6 games and we all go, oh my God, they're the best thing. For me, what I need to see is that Kulu continues to play the way he's playing between now and the end of the season. And what I think he needs to do to start being talked about in the brackets of other top players is, again, consistency is key, but I think he's got to start adding big numbers. He's got to, because when you are a number 10, a wide forward,
you need 20 GA, don't you? 20 GA.
You need 20 GA in a season. And people are going, I'm not saying it's all about GA, but I think you've got to balance out what you see with, is he a game changer? And that's the difference, right? When you let's look at Phil Foden over the last few years. I know he's going through a difficult 5-10 games now, but Phil Foden over the last 4 or 5 years, his GA is going boom, 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 boom. Cole Palmer, look at it. He's got 45 goal contributions in his last 45 games. For me, I'm not saying Kulu should do that. For me, I think what Kulu needs to do is keep up with these performances on the eye where we go, weren't he good today? And start adding goal contribution most weeks. I'm not saying.
But is he on the team sheet ahead of James Maddison right now?
I would play them both. I don't think they should play in the same position.
I agree. I don't disagree with you. But in terms of like in the games where in fact, it's a good segue, because here's one of the things I've been thinking about putting out as a walk with the dog, but I thought I'd share it with you guys because I haven't chewed it over in my own mind yet. I would argue that given the amount of talent that we have on the bench, that, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I think that the gap between our first 11 and our second 11, if you like, is never been tighter. I'm not saying that we have a world-class squad. I'm saying that we have like the gap between the drop-off between our first 11 and the bench is shallower than it has been for years. And when you look at the options that we had that were perfectly timed substitutions on Saturday, I would argue that we have pace galore. We have Timo Werner, Brennan Johnson sitting there. We have the ability to hit players or hit teams on the counter in the second half. But Tottenham, for what it's worth this year, for the most part, have seemed to have been off the boil a little bit in the first half and then come out all guns blazing second half, which is fine. But I would argue that against the teams that want to sit in low block, you have to draw them out. And in order to do that, you need to have, them having a deficit to crawl back in the second half of games. And so for me, I would argue that given the shape and the narrative and the kind of skill set that we have on the bench, which is pace galore and options in that regard, I would say if you're going to pick a half, you're going to pick a half where you go all out to get the lead, it should be the first half, because if you do that, then in the second half, when the other team has to come out, the likes of Fulham or Bournemouth or whoever it might be, if they have to come out and chase the game in the second half, then you have the options with the pace in the likes of Timo Werner that can spread the game later on. Whereas if you're 0-0 at halftime, or if you're 1-0 down at halftime, like we have been most of the time, then they have more of a likelihood to sit in, and you've got to break them down, even though you come out all guns blazing. I would argue that we should come out of the traps faster in the first half, get the lead, and then the second half, you can make the substitutions whereby the pace can be more effective against a team that is chasing the game rather than settled in and trying to protect the lead that they already have. I don't know if you disagree or agree with that, guys.
Here's an interesting positive stat, right? This season, we have 8 fast break goals so far this season. Last season, we managed to get 3 in the entirety of the season. Our best ever has been 9 under Pochettino in 2019. So, he has changed something. And, obviously he's utilising that pace. I prefer us to have a balance where sometimes we suck teams in. Don't press them to death. Let them come onto you. Suck them in the opposite way. And let's hit them on. Because we look better, in my opinion, often when we're playing on the counter-attack. I feel. I think there's less risk of us getting exposed at times when we manage to suck teams in and play through their press. Personally,
yeah, I agree.
I don't disagree with that at all. I agree. I think the difference is, Sean, I don't know whether the quality gap is closing. I just feel like there's more options now. I don't know if it's quite it's a difficult one because
let's go through it. Last year, when there was an issue on the bench, who did we have? We had Eric Dyer, Ben Davies, Brian Hill when he was fit, Timo Werner, who's obviously still there now, but we didn't really have anyone that come on. Now, most of the time, if everybody's fit, if Maddison's not started because there's Brennan Johnson on, you've got Maddison to come off the bench, right? A player that's like top draw. You've got Bissouma or Bentancur. You have Bergwijn. I mean, I don't know what you think about Bergwijn. I don't even know what you guys think of Bergwijn. What is your take on Bergwijn thus far? You've been impressed with him? I haven't actually spoken to you guys about this. So,
I think.
Or
Look,
Archie Gray, same question. Archie Gray. Yeah.
I think there's players on the. Let me just quickly before I go to Bergwijn. I think there are players on the bench, but I think they're going to work in certain games. Like, for example, if you're going to bring on Werner and Johnson in a game like that, it suits. I think if you're going to bring Johnson and Werner on in a game where there's a low block and we need someone who can beat a man, with skill and it's all compact, I don't think they're the players. So I think it all depends on what you're doing. Because I think Brennan Johnson, a complete enigma. I think he is superb at getting into the box and tapping in. I think he's terrible as a right winger. Like he's got no skill, no strength. He can't go past anyone. Hasn't got a good cross. So I think you're right in terms of volume of players. I'm not sure about how many of that great, but Bergwijn, flip a coin, Sean. I mean, I don't know. We bought in Bergwijn and Gray. I'm going to group them in together.
I'm not sure you should. 10 million quid versus 45 million or whatever.
No. I'm just talking about in terms of both 18, both midfielders, both not really getting a lot of time. It's a difficult one because when you're putting in Archie Gray against all of these weaker European teams at fullback, I don't really know what I'm meant to be looking out for. Right. When Bergwijn's played, I think we've seen moments that make you go, there's a footballer in there. Technically, he's got a good touch. You can see it. He looks a player, if you know what I mean. But there's been games where you go, oh, this is all a bit too quick for him. He doesn't look strong enough. But you can see there's a player. For me, is he a Brian Hill type for you? I don't like know. Lightweight, a little bit kind of.
Sorry.
No, I don't think he is. I just think it's coming to a new league. You've got to remember he's played in Sweden. It's a completely different ball game to come in here. And for me, both of them, but definitely Bergwijn he should be out on loan. For me, in January,
what standard is he ready for?
I would look at the top of the table championship team. Okay. For me, that for me, I think Archie Gray should still be at Leeds on loan for a year. And I won't go back to it, but this does all go back to not signing senior pros in the window. We've bought loads of kids that we can't let go on loan because we need them. So, but Bergwijn, unknown. I would say at the moment. Looks like he's got something, but unknown.
I'm more convinced by. I think Archie Gray is going to be. I've said this a few times. I don't know. Look, again, you haven't got a huge sample size here. Massive fee to pay for the guy, but I look at him, Jonny, and I think that guy needs to knuckle down and figure out who he wants to be, because otherwise he will be a jack of all trades forever and be someone that can be cast into any particular role, and he needs to pick what he wants to be, or someone needs to tell him there's a shot here. If you want to be the expert in this, then master that role because you've got everything you need. But otherwise, if you're always going to be a guy that can just be fit in here, fit like a square peg for any particular shaped hole, then cool. But you're never going to be what you could be. Jack of all trades for me need to be specified at some point.
For me, I think that's grossly unfair because if you go into any of his social media, it's very clear who he wants to be.
Midfielder.
Social media ends in a 6, right? There's no doubt what he wants to be. At Leeds, he was a 6, but then they had an injury and he had to play at right back. And when you look back, you want a snapshot of Archie Gray, the true Archie Gray, then go and watch, if you get time, go onto YouTube after we finished, obviously, not right now, and watch Leeds versus Chelsea in the Cup.
Yeah.
And watch how he
smashed Caicedo. He smashed Caicedo. He smashed Fernandes.
Yeah, he was my number one in January. Him and Adam Walton were the two players that I wanted last January. Leif Davis is the one who I'd like this January, by the way.
He's a player,
right?
He's a player, yeah.
So, and so I think that he is 100% a 6. I don't think his family are particularly happy having come to Spurs, and he's done amazing. He's so far ahead of where we thought he'd be, and all the rest of it. Yet he hasn't had a minute as a 6. Now, I would really like to see with Bentancur through adversity that somehow or other that he is given an opportunity, even if it's for 45 minutes, to see Archie Gray as a 6 before we pass judgment that he's a left back, a right back, a centre back. He's not any of those. Yes, he can play them, but that's not his position. I've got a clip on my Instagram at the top of there. Go and watch Archie Gray with his quick feet get out of trouble. Go and watch. I've got a clip there where he's picked up the ball. He's read the ball, the pass back. He's intercepted it, and his quick feet left Jared Bowen for dead, right, in the box, right? He has the feet, he has the vision, he has the DNA and the pedigree of the Gray family, right? And I do think that he needs to be given time. Second of all, if he doesn't start playing as a 6 or in the middle of the field, the chances of us signing Harry Gray, who's a really good striker and a good young kid, will diminish. As for Berger,
what, is he his brother?
His brother's fantastic striker.
Can I refute some of that though? Sorry, I'd love to for balance. Listen, I feel like we've really over-egged this guy off of the back of the Chelsea game. Listen, I feel for him. I really feel for him, and I agree with you, Jonny, in the aspect of it's not his choice that he's being used as a jack of all trades. Right, I feel for him because he is not a fullback. I don't care. Everyone can say he played there at Leeds. His body shape, his positioning, that's not a guy that's grown up playing at fullback. He can't defend. It's not his position. Right, centre back. I mean, I don't think he's a centre back either. But what makes me laugh is how we brought this boy in. We've decided that we don't want him to go out on loan. Fair enough. That's the club's choice. And then we've not given him. I mean, I think if I'm right, he's played 5 minutes in the midfield. I seem to remember maybe the last 5 minutes on the opening day of the season. I'm pretty sure against Leicester, he might have come on in the middle of the park for 5 minutes. But Jonny, the disappointing thing for me is that Ange hasn't given him a minute in midfield in the league, right? So that when something like this has happened to Bentancur, right, we shouldn't be sitting here going, oh, can Gray play that role? We should be saying, we know he can. We know he can.
I agree. But that's on Ange, just like Jed Spence.
No, I know, Jonny, I completely agree with you. That is on Ange, so is the Jed Spence thing. But for me, all of these games against Ferencvaros, Karabag, AZ Alkmaar, those were the games where you go, do you know what?
100%.
Let's get one of the senior pros, so either Bissouma or Bentancur, partner him with Gray. There you go, Gray. Get 90 minutes under your belt. And let's see, can he do it against those clubs? Because if he can, and if he can't, that's a worry. But if he can, great. We know he can play there.
Just now, I was just going to say, you're 100% spot on. Just like when Bissouma was like the father to Pape Sarr's child, when he looked after him in that midfield, and they played that midfield pivot between the two of them. And now you look at it and it's like Pape Sarr really that's looking after Bissouma. But you're 100% right. That's what should have happened. Someone should have been partnered with him in the middle of the park.
I feel for that. Listen, look, I'm very critical of the club paying 40 million for any 18-year-old. I am.
A lot of money. That is a huge amount of money.
You know, unless it's an 18-year-old where we all go, Jesus Christ, we've just signed Lamine Yamal, you know, that type of 18-year-old. But that's not his fault. I acknowledge that. I want to see him get some time in midfield. And again, it's going to take time. I don't expect that the first game the boy goes into midfield, we all go, oh, he's rubbish. Get him in there. Leave him in there for 3 or 4 games. But is he going to get that opportunity, lads? Is he? I don't think he is.
He's got to, though. You see, this is where
I agree.
I'm going to go in on Ange here on this because I feel, yeah. David,
hang on, get your clips out, ladies and gentlemen.
Ready, clip me. Listen, I don't think he's done some of these players a service. I think he's done them a disservice.
Agreed.
I think playing Bergvall in Galatasaray in the ferocious atmosphere in a game like that was what you do. You know, you play them at home in a softer game where the fans are behind him and supportive. And, you know, you play Archie Gray, just like you were saying before. You play him, you partner him with a more experienced player to nurse him through it and give him the confidence. I don't see any of that. And, you know, Jed Spence...
Just, Johnny, quickly on that, before I'll press pause, I'll let you come back in. It's one thing, baptism of fire. It's another thing to hook him off after 53 minutes or whatever it was, and then give him a tap around the head as if to say, you'll learn from this. Like, if you're going to give him that, you have to let him have it. You know, you don't rip him off the pitch after 50 minutes and basically
make an example of it.
Basically make him feel like he was responsible for the shit show that was, you know.
Correct.
Not fair. I agree.
You're right, Jonny. You don't start him in. If you are going to start him in Galatasaray, at least do it when you've like I think the Galatasaray game for me was some of the worst management I've seen from a manager. If I'm honest, he went to Galatasaray, played a high line. He played one midfielder and two attacking midfield. You know, wingers that didn't drop back, and I just thought, this isn't right.
That's going to be a problem, isn't it? If we do get to the semi-final of that competition and you pick up, you go back to Galatasaray, or you go, I don't know, you get one of the teams that have dropped out of the Champions League, and I'm not sure if that even happens this year.
No, it doesn't exist now.
That doesn't happen this year, does it? No. But like, if you get like a nasty draw away in the semi-final, and we go to whoever, like you go away to, I don't know, somewhere in Spain. And
Bilbao.
It's a place where 99 out of 100 managers would recognise and appreciate the delicate scenario and would go in there and tuck in and just try and come back without a disgraceful loss. And then you take them back to your place and you want to then go run back. But we won't do that with Ange. I doubt. All evidence points to we go there and we do the kind of one holding midfielder that's not even a holding midfielder and 5 attacking players. And I think that you know, it just looks naive at that level, right?
Well, he's got to prove
especially when Bergvall's being chucked in. I think if you're doing that with senior pros, all right, you can maybe get away with it. But you know, you've put Bergvall into a cauldron, and I know there's people saying, you know, it's good for them. I don't think that's good for them.
Destroys them.
Yeah, it's for me. I mean, in that game, Gray got absolutely rinsed at left back. Not his fault. He's not a left back. He got absolutely rinsed at left back. There's no way that young kid's coming off the pitch and going, great lesson there.
Yeah,
he's
thanks
coming
for that.
off going,
Thanks, boss.
Thanks, for crippling me. Listen, I don't understand that. I don't understand
Especially with Tottenham fans being so brutal, going, Archie Gray's a fucking shit show.
Why would you do that? Why would you put an 18-year-old who's a 6 or a midfielder as at worst he's a right back. But to whack him in at left back and be destroyed over and over, it's demoralising.
Jonny, we had this chat Sunday night, and Sean, for your benefit, for me, the frustrating thing for me, right, was we all looked at those 8 games in Europe, right, Sean? And sorry, Jonny, I know you're going to hear this again. We looked at those 8 games in Europe and we said, what's the toughest game? Right, we all went, Galatasaray away. No one wants to go there. For me, this was a real good opportunity to see what is Ange like in Europe. How does he match up against good managers in a really tough away environment?
Squad, very good team. That's what I've got as well. But good, yeah.
And for me, it was like he used that, and everyone was going, it's a free hit. But for me, I think the free hits are Karabag. Right? Alkmaar, Ferencváros, they're the free hits. Galatasaray, I wanted to see a manager go to and go, right, they've got Victor Osimhen straight away. Right, let's drop that defence 5-10 yards. Right, hang on. I can't play Maddison and Bergvall. Right, Sarr, you or Bentancur, Sarr and Bentancur, Bissouma, 2 of you, sit in there. Right, correct. Wingers. Right, okay, wingers. Right, Johnson, drop back 10 yards, sit in front of Porro. You sit in front and protect Archie Gray. But he didn't. He went there. He went gung-ho. And let's be brutally honest. And I'm hoping he's learned from that because we didn't do that at City. But let's be brutally honest. If that game had been 10-2 to Galatasaray, no one could have been surprised. They murdered us. Like they picked
embarrassing.
apart those tactics for fun. And look, again, the reason why I didn't want him to do it in that game was that was the toughest European game. Show me what you've got. Show me your tactics.
What made it worse, Sava, was he rested all these players
Tomorrow.
to be fresh for Ipswich, and we never turned up.
Yeah.
I can maybe have forgiven him. I was struggling after that game, and that's what made it even more galling that we didn't turn up from that. Well, what were you working on? They were rested. You rested these players all week for the big game against Ipswich to go into third place. And
what happened against Ipswich, Johnny? What happened against Ipswich, mate? Explain to us.
If you watch my video before,
out the loop, some of my opinions, I've even said so. Like on my walks with the dog, I'm like, I find it very difficult right now to have a strong opinion about Tottenham about anything because I don't know if it's my distractions in life or whether it's just Tottenham is so like yin and yang. I don't know what it is, but I can't put my finger on what's going on. Why it is that it's so easy to get up for City, easier than ever it seems to be to pull out a masterpiece, but then a week before you dropped the ball so massively against Ipswich. What happened against Ipswich?
Look, for me, right, I got a bit of abuse from some friends because I sent them a video where I basically turned around and said, "You've all written this off as a walk on and walk off, right? Well, you're wrong." I said Amari Hutchinson, Leif Davis, right, Sammy Smolix and Liam Delap, right, got Kieran McKenna, who's a top coach. 2 years ago, they were playing, I think, Cheltenham in League One.
Right.
The guys brought them in. I think he's a top coach. And if you watch their games, this season, right, they do not deserve to only have 5 points. And if you think...
A lot of draws, though, right? They've got like one victory and 5 draws or something, right? So
no, they didn't have a victory before.
Yeah, before they've got five.
But if you watch the games, Jonny...
6 draws.
6 draws. Delap, Leif Davis. I was going on about Amari Hutchinson. Now, there's a player who can go past on the wing. He can go past players. 25 million, Chelsea, Arsenal. But my point here was there was complacency. There was complacency that we could turn up. I mean, for me, Liam Delap is a throwback. He reminds me of Drunken Ferguson up front. Big, bustling. Man City again. I'm very surprised that City let him go because he offers something. He's got good feet for a big guy. And I just think, by the time we woke up and realised we were in a game of football, we were 2-0 down. And
can I? Yeah, because I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. By the way, the right winger really impresses me for Ipswich, even in the Championship. Wes Burns. Every ball he whipped into the box against Man United at the weekend found an Ipswich player. Just to say, can I just say, for me, can I group in a group of games together rather than just Ipswich, Sean?
Yeah, of course. Go with it, yeah.
If you actually look at, and again, I think it's really important.
You're not going to make me relive Crystal Palace again, have you?
I'm sorry, mate.
I just sit on that stand for 90 minutes of hell. Go on.
I think it's important that when you're going to praise, I think it's important to critique as well. I find it really difficult when people just want to praise the great things, but then when you're critiquing the bad things, it's called negative. For me, when I look at it, Leicester City, Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town, Newcastle, Arsenal, right? If you look what all those clubs did, all of them, even Arsenal, people are saying, they were too scared. Arsenal, the master plan worked, right? Sit in. All 5 of those games, other than Leicester, right? So we lost 4 of those games. All 4 of those clubs had no interest in coming out and playing. They had no interest in coming out and going toe-to-toe. Newcastle was all on the counter-attack. Leicester City, all with a quick ball over the top in the second half to Fatawu and Mavididi and Jamie Vardy. Crystal Palace had 3 big centre-halves, wing-backs, 2 sitting in front of the back, in front of the back 3. Ipswich, 3 big centre-halves again, 2 wing-backs, 3 sitting in front. When Spurs are faced with that, I don't think it's not something we can't get over before everyone has a go at me. I'm sure that's what they're working on. That is where the kind of tactics we adopt don't work. Yeah? It's where we really, really don't work. We don't have the trickery and the sorcery in tight quarters to get the ball out wide. They could beat a man really quickly, get the ball. We don't do that. And that's why we struggle, Sean. Villa, second half, stepped up 10 yards, tried to play, took them to the cleaners. West Ham in the first half sat back. Second half, stepped up a little bit, took them to the cleaners. City, they're wide and expansive, took them to the cleaners. I think this is why we're seeing such a big yin and yang, because if you noticed, we're either brilliant or shit. There's no real in between.
It's all about balance.
I agree. I think sometimes against those teams that sit back, Jonny, I think you've got to look and go, right, do we need to play Johnson and Son on the wings when they're not beating a man? What can we do differently
That's
here?
The whole crux of our system. What you're hitting there,
right.
Saba, for me, is what I've said. It's the whole crux of our season. It's the difference between top four and challenging and being a serious team to not. Because when it comes to a team that wants to come and play us, we can give as good as we get and we can beat the best of them.
Agreed.
But we don't have the ammunition. And I didn't go on about Amari Hutchinson again. But when you see someone like Amari Hutchinson just go down there and beat players, he was running as ragged at Ipswich when we played them. And you look at other players, we need that type of player.
Neto, that sort of winger that gets it, beats a man, runs it, he's back. Yeah.
And if he doesn't, Sava, what's he doing? He's pulling them down and we're winning a free kick in a dangerous position. Yeah.
Shout out to James Maddison, by the way. Listen, I'm a critic of James Maddison. For some time, I think he goes a little bit. I think he's one of these fair weather players that he's great at wonderful things, but doesn't do enough as an all rounder. Against City, he got back and did his thing. I've already explained about my take on that. But also, he draws fouls and he gets battered during games. If you watch the highlights of him getting taken out by City players, unbelievable first touch delicacies. Listen, I agree with everything you said today, guys. I think it's been an interesting devil's advocate. Someone made the point there. Sean is looking like he's lagging a little bit. 90 minutes. It's a hard graft for me at the moment. It's coming back from injury, a long layoff. Delicate reintroduction.
How's your hamstring, Jonny? Hang on, medic. Check.
Medic, yeah. We're gonna be back tomorrow for more Devil's Advocate. Dave and Jonny are coming back. Before we round it off, though, we are gonna go. We like to weave on this channel. We like to weave. We go off on random tangents and we do the weave. We bring it back like Donald Trump. And I want to ask you this, right? You mentioned it, guys. I think it was a great way to finish off.
The greatest podcast.
How we get through Fulham? How we get through? Who we got coming up? Fulham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, and I forget the other team. How we get past, how we break that deadlock, that sort of deadlock or whatever. I personally believe that we need to go full heavy effort in the first half, try to get a lead, draw them out second half, and then you can utilize your bench options a little bit more healthily. And it also, obviously, the massive elephant in the room, he's not an elephant, he's a tree, is the reintroduction of Big Fraser Foster. Guys, last words, how do you feel? Is it going to be a meaningful interruption to our season's plans? Do you think that we can adapt? Do you even see there's credit in the idea that maybe his reintroduction is going to make Ange force a pivot to pull us back? And will that help us or not? Last words, and then we're going to round off, give you guys a chance to plug whatever's coming up on your channels. And I want to say a massive thank you, first and foremost, to Tony for the new member. Appreciate you, Tony, very, very much, mate. I know you're
good
someone...
to see you, Tony. Mr. Sweden.
Tony's interesting, mate. I know you remember the channel, but you're also someone that... I know that you generally quite happy to go after me on other channels that you frequent. So it's an interesting dynamic. I appreciate the support.
Listen, Tony from Sweden always says it as it is.
He says it as he sees.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you very much, Tony, for the support. Also to you, Drew. I didn't get a chance to say it, mate. 17-month member. Wow, what support from you, buddy. Always one of the first guys in the show asking people for likes. Thank you so much for your support. It's great to see you, mate. Great to have you back, Sean. Great to be back, buddy. Saba and Jonny, last words as we move into Thursday. Roma first, and then we've got the weekend against Fulham. Sav, how big of a deal is Fraser Foster? Are we going to get through it? What's your kind of takeaway? What do we get out of those two games? Same question to you, Jonny, after Saba's got his words in.
Well, you've got the new name for your show. The Two Wankers and Sean is the new name for this show, according to someone in the chat, which is lovely. Hello to you as well. Big up, John. I think it's got a ring to it.
I've seen him about. That's all right.
Yeah, I have. He's got a ring to it. The Two Wankers and Sean. As long as I can be wanker number one, I'll take it. Look, I think it's quite easy, Sean. I think I fully expect us to beat Roma. Roma are in a very difficult, I say, moment, but it's a difficult season for them. I think they're on manager number three. Are they by November? I fully expect us to beat them. I always find it difficult to predict scores and tactics because I always want to see what the team's going to be for Europa League games. But before I go, we'll beat them 4-0. I fully expect us to beat Fulham at home. If there's anything serious about us, we cannot batter Man City 4-0 and then not even a draw is good enough. We have to beat Fulham at home. No excuses. Fulham are not a sit-in and defend team. I'm not saying they're gung-ho, but Fulham are a team that like to try and get it down and play. But we've got to be careful. Do we go straight back to that high line and allow Traore, Pereira, or, to get that pace in behind? So for me, we should be winning that one. And then after that, Bournemouth away.
That's a tricky one. That is.
That's going to be a really good game because that's a tight pitch. It's a small pitch. Bournemouth have been very good this season. They've got a good manager. But again, Sean, I'll end on this, right? I'll end on this. All I've ever said for all the people who are always going at me about my opinion of Ange, all I want to see is some bloody consistency. I just want to see this win, lose come to an end, because until you do that, no one can tell me we're a good team, right? Once you start putting, we've beaten City, cool, and we've beaten Roma. Now we've beaten Fulham. You've beaten Bournemouth. All right, hang on. That's 4 wins in a row. We're now, okay, good. Let's do that. Then we start talking about we're a good team, right? Not a great team, but we're a good team that can go on a run. If we do that, people like me, Sean, I say it on your channel, my channel, I turn around and go, maybe I was a little bit hasty about Ange. Great work. At the moment, Tottenham, I never know what I'm going to get. I just don't know who we are. I don't know what we're going to get. Am I getting the Harlem Globetrotters that beat City? Or am I getting League Two or Conference League Nuneaton that turn up against Ipswich Town? I don't know. So sort that out, get that consistent, and then I'll be a happy fan. And I'm old and ugly, Sean. I can turn around and say I got it wrong. But at the moment, look, me and you talk about this all the time, Sean. People seem really scared to be able to pivot their opinion or to be able to turn around and go, you know what, I might have got that wrong, or that's getting better. I'm happy. It seems like we live in this world.
Egos in life are everything, man.
It's mad.
It's harder to convince. It's easier to fool a man than it is to convince them they've been fooled. Right? Egos get in the way of education.
Don't say when you're wrong.
Right?
Say when you're wrong.
Right, Saba, you're not wrong to have the opinions you have, and you've been proven right that you press pause on any kind of.
It's all right to have an opinion,
one way or the other, but obviously people love to tell other people that they're wrong all the time, and it doesn't matter.
Never when they're right. Never when they're right, Sean. When they're right.
Never when they're right. Yeah.
The funny thing is, just really quickly before I pass to Jonny, and I'll say, thank you to everyone in the chat. It's been really good. It looks great to have Sean back. But the funny thing is, when I predicted Spurs to beat 4-0, right? When I predicted Spurs to beat Ipswich 4-0, I didn't see anyone coming at me going, you're wrong. Your prediction was terrible. You're in the mud, right? As soon as I said City would beat us 2-1, as soon as we beat them, you're wrong. I was wrong last week as well, and no one mentioned it. I was wrong last week,
Yeah.
So was everyone else in the fan base who predicted Ipswich to beat Spurs?
Yeah, no one.
I predicted them. I didn't predict them to win. I did predict them to give us a heck of a lot of trouble. But now wanker number 1, Sav, has finished, right? This is wanker number 2, Jonny, 32, with his take on it. Listen, Roma, they're going to play dirty. They're going to go down every 2 seconds. They're going to try and ruin the game, mess the game up, which is really going to piss Ange off. But we should see it through. The fact that we couldn't score in open play against I've got the Dutch team we played now. Couldn't score against them. We weren't great against Ferencváros. We weren't great against Carrier Bag. But we should see them through. As for Fulham, well, look, they got gubbed 4-1 at the weekend, but that means nothing. You got two players there, Alex Iwobi and what's his name in the middle of the park, who are, let's be honest, looking to reap some revenge for Arsenal. And they've got the pace. They've got the pace with, with Robinson. They will give us problems. I think the best thing to do on against Fulham is basically to bring them onto us. I would really like to see us change tactics to allow for the fact that this is what we've got. I don't want to hear it's who we are, mate, and we're playing a high line against Roma and against Fulham. Because if I see that and we get beaten...
Then who we are is incredibly naive. Who we are is incredibly stupid.
I don't want to hear that.
Incredibly predictable. And who we are...
I don't want to hear that. I just don't want to hear that. I was really happy to see how we set up and how we played the game against City. Let's see more of that. And if he does that and we still get beat, then fair enough. I would say, look, he tried it. It didn't work, but at least we can see he's going game by game. But I'm with Sava here. Let's not talk about anything really, one way or the other, until we've beaten Fulham, we've beaten Roma, we've had a great performance against Bournemouth, and I think Fulham, as I say, Smith Rowe, we can keep Smith Rowe and Iwobi quiet, and the rest of them, they're gonna be up. Backs are gonna be up after that result, and I think for me, I need to see unbeaten in the next 4 games.
All right,
turned a corner.
Love that, guys. Well, one more word out of you before we round up. I'll give you guys a chance to plug your channels and stuff. And that is the answer to this question. What round do Tottenham get to in the Carabao Cup? Quarterfinals, semi-finals, final, or winners? Is there a watch that's going to be engraved?
Finalists.
Finalists?
Hang on, quarterfinalists.
Quarterfinalists. Is that what we're going to get?
Presented with a Swatch watch. Quarterfinalists. Look, I tell you.
Do we get past United? Do we beat United under Romero?
Listen, all I can say is, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, categorically, yes, I think we would beat them even with the new manager coming in. But with the tree in goal, and I'm not sure whether either of our two centre backs are going to be playing, then it's hard to say. If we got Romero and Micky back, I would say we're very much capable of going on to beat them at home. So I'm going to go semi-finalists and meeting Arsenal in the semis.
And you think we'll lose?
Well, I've got to be positive.
That's what I'm asking. What round? What round do you get to?
Look, I'm going to tell you, Ange always wins in his second season. He's
right. Winners then, yeah. Winners. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Man United game's really interesting because I watched Man U Ipswich. You can already see that he wants to change the formation.
Back three.
I do think it's going to take time for them to get that. So in theory, it would be very disappointing to lose to Man U. For me, it would be very disappointing to lose. But they've got quick players on the counter. So I'm going to caveat and say it all depends on what tactics Ange adopts.
I don't want to hear it depends. I don't want to hear it depends. I want to hear a prediction.
Rashford and Garnacho.
If we play how we played against City,
we win that game
easily.
Put yourself out there.
Sabri,
go with this manager, Sean. Okay, I think we beat Man United. You would have to say that Arsenal will probably go through against Palace.
Yeah.
Liverpool will probably go through against Southampton. I mean, you don't want Liverpool or Arsenal over 2 legs. Correct. I know we can say for the romance of the North London, we want. I don't want to play Arsenal over 2 legs.
Correct.
And Liverpool over 2 legs.
Yeah, again, Liverpool. Agree. And who's the fourth?
So,
who's the fourth team?
Newcastle v Brentford is the other game. So
yeah, it depends. Yeah, so it depends. Is not available here, but depending on who you get in the semi-final, if you get one of the first.
Of course. Listen, if you then get Newcastle or Brentford over 2 legs, I'm gutted if we don't make the final, right? But Liverpool and Arsenal going to be really tough games. So listen, I'm going to say we get. I'm sorry. I'm going to say we get to the final. But if you
saying finalists. I'm saying finalists too.
If you get to the final, it's a. You're coming up against Arsenal or Liverpool, right? Surely one of those two is going to make that.
Yeah, but
final.
Surely that suits you. You'd rather over 90 minutes. I think you'd rather play.
Sure.
You know,
I feel sorry for the finalists.
I think we win it. How about that?
I feel sorry for the finalists, to be honest with you, because with this whole furrow that's gone on, they're not even going to get a watch engraved.
No, that's right. Exactly. Hugo Lloris is fucking pissed on.
They're all going to get a Fitbit. They're all going to get a Fitbit, aren't they?
They're all going to get a Fitbit. Yeah. Exactly.
Listen, there's no reason for the position we're in. We're 4 games away from winning a trophy. There's no reason why we can't. Like Jonny said, it's all going to depend who's fit at the time, who of the opposition got fit. But look, why not? Listen, more than anyone, I want to win a trophy. I've been banging on about it since I was. Do you know what? We last won a trophy. I remember I'd just come from the gym in the morning, went straight to Wembley. I had a 6-pack at that time, Sean. That's how far back we're going.
Mate, the last time I had a 6-pack. The last
time Spurs won a trophy. And I have not now.
Genuine 6-pack was about 6 hours ago when I went down to Co-op and bought 5 of these bad boys. And then, it was lovely. But yeah, it's been a while. Sava, Jonny, been wonderful to see you guys. The people in the chat, it's been awesome to see you lot. It's been a while. And first of many, Sava, anything coming up on your channel this evening or tomorrow? Or what's going on, mate?
Yeah, just an easy one tonight. Me, Barry, Perchy, and Steve, Strasbourg Steve, just going to do.
Back, is he?
Perchy's back with a channel, and we're just going to do a live score show. Like we're just going to pretend we're Jeff Stelling and the boys. So just a bit of a laugh, whittle away the time, and yeah. But thanks for having me on. Listen, I'm really glad you're back. We don't agree on. I think we agreed solidly on 50% of stuff, and the other 50 we really don't. So
all right, that's what makes a market, mate. You need a buyer for every seller, or no one ever makes a trade. Appreciate that, exactly. Jonny. What's coming up on? I mean, you're back tomorrow for the Devil's Advocate.
I'm back tomorrow with you, and it's great to have you back. To all the people who have been DMing me, asking me where he is, there he is, that way. There he is. He's back, and the community is great to have you back. And as Saba said, we've missed you. I've certainly missed you, and the show. You can also find me on Sunday after the Fulham game. Hopefully, I'll be celebrating on Last Word of Spurs. Otherwise, it'll be same old, same old. I'll be giving it large on certain people. But listen, let's be positive. We had 47.5 hours of positivity, which is a lot.
Yeah, good enough. Take it.
We left Man City. We all bounced into work on Monday morning, full of the joys of spring, enjoying every minute of it, and then boom, like a stone.
Big Vic.
The Big Vic news dropped, and we were back to square one. But look, full of positive. Let's stay positive until otherwise. And I'm back in the tree to be as solid as oak, and keep it real and surprise us all and prove us all wrong. Thanks for having 100%. Us on. Give me a follow at JohnnyH3232 and on my Instagram, Let's Talk Tottenham 1882, and look forward to doing it all with you guys again.
Yeah, appreciate you, boys. Guys, just out of due diligence, Jonny's going to be on Last Word on Spurs on Sunday. For what it's worth, I spoke to the wonderful Ricky Sachs. You might have seen me a couple of times on there. January, I'm going to be filling in Matty Hayes. Matty Hayes fame. He's moved away doing his own thing. I think he's got a wonderful job with a company that doesn't allow him to be on these channels or something anymore. So Ricky's asked me to be the new Matty Hayes for the weekly or twice weekly, bi-weekly, I'm not sure how you call it. The press, the get together with all of the various journalists on Last Word on Spurs. So I'll be a regular on that channel over the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to working with Ricky more closely. Wonderful channel. Go over there and subscribe. Also get down to Sava's Football Heritage TV. Look, I mean, he'll be logged in about an hour's time or tonight, right now, for the football. And also make sure you get to Let's Talk Tottenham. Jonny and I are going to be starting a separate channel, I think, as well as the Devil's Advocate. But you can catch us here tomorrow at lunchtime with Dave Irish Hotspur as well. Shout out to you guys in the comment section. Shout out to everybody put in their members chats. Great to see you all, and we'll see you again as always, guys. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
And bye-bye.
Action.
What that was, I'm not sure. See you guys. Bye.